As I sit here wrapped in 3 electric blankets, cranked up to the max, with my feet submerged in a boiling foot spa, and my hair practically on fire just to stay warm, I can't help but wonder, how on earth did people survive, or even die, during the brutal winters of the Middle Ages? How did they stay warm? What did they eat? How did they pass the time without modern comforts like insulated windows, binge-watching Netflix, or God of War Ragnarok? Between 1300 and 1870, Europe endured what historians call the Little Ice Age, a time when the long, dark winters were even more perilous, with starvation and sickness constantly lurking. Winter was not just cold, it was terrifying. Welcome to Tavern Tales. Houses. Most medieval peasants lived in homes that were far from the cozy, insulated shelters we enjoy today. Their houses, typically made from wood, wattle, and daub, were prone to cold drafts. Many homes were built on top of mounds of earth to provide some natural insulation, but the struggle against the cold was constant. A central fire provided warmth and a place to cook, but without chimneys, the smoke filled the home, escaping only through small ventilation holes in the roof. This meant that people constantly smelled like smoke, and the interiors became sooty, especially in winter. For some extra storage, houses sometimes had a second floor accessible by ladder. Space was limited, so people often shared their homes with livestock, like cows, pigs, and chickens. The body heat of these animals helped keep the place warmer, but the trade-off was a house that was crowded, loud, and frankly, smelled awful. Imagine trying to sleep while spooning a pig just to avoid freezing. The Vikings were especially clever with heat retention. Their longhouses had central fire pits lined with stones to distribute warmth, and they often built barns attached to their homes to shelter cattle, which provided heat during the cold months. In the few homes that used portable braziers for heat, safety was always a concern. Fires were a constant risk, and it wasn't uncommon for entire homes to burn down due to accidents. Wealthier individuals could afford stone houses, but these were notoriously cold. Glass windows were reserved for the elite, like in London's Palace of Westminster, which in the 1230s had its windows glazed to keep out the harsh winter winds. The poor often had to cover openings with paper or foliage to fend off drafts, making winters a true test of endurance. Clothing. To combat the biting cold, medieval people relied heavily on clothing for warmth. The best strategy for staying warm involved a combination of insulation and radiation, achieved by being close to a heat source and trapping warmth with layers of thick clothing. Layering became a practical solution, with linen undergarments worn beneath woolen attire. While wool provided excellent insulation, it was also heavy and itchy, so the linen acted as a soft barrier between the skin and the rough wool. During the coldest months, people often wore their outdoor clothing, heavy boots, woolen gloves, scarves, and cloaks, even indoors. The combination of smoke, sweat, and animal presence created an aroma that could only be described as uniquely pungent. For those with means, metal hand warmers were available, especially for priests whose hands could freeze during long sermons in chilly churches. These decorative devices were made of metal with perforated bowls filled with hot charcoal, allowing warmth to escape without risking burns. Additionally, medieval folk used heated bricks or stones wrapped in cloth as makeshift hot water bottles, a clever way to stave off the cold at night. Wealthier individuals might have winter clothing lined with luxurious furs, while even peasants could use rabbit or lamb skins to protect against the chill. However, catching game for furs required permission from local lords, as strict sumptuary laws enforced fashion hierarchies. The law passed in 1363, for example, prohibited anyone except the wives and daughters of land-owning peasants and craftspeople from wearing furs like fox or rabbit. This system kept the lower classes in plain wool, even as the elite enjoyed the warmth and status of fur garments. Weather. The chill of winter wasn't exclusive to the northern regions. Even the mainland of Europe faced brutal weather conditions. In fact, during the winter of 1363 to 1364, many major rivers and lakes froze solid from December to March. The Rhine River at Mainz in Germany was encased in ice for an astonishing 70 days, allowing townspeople in Cologne to hold a market right on the frozen surface. In Belgium, the town of Fosses remained blanketed in snow for over 3 months, illustrating just how severe conditions could be. Even southern Europe was not spared, as the Venetian lagoon and the Atlantic Ocean near Bordeaux froze during a particularly harsh February in 1352. Central Italy experienced significant snowfall that year as well, with Florentine streets buried under a thick blanket of snow for over a month. In 1359, the snowfall reached unprecedented levels, leading residents to throw snow from their roofs into the streets to prevent structural damage. Bologna reported snowdrifts reaching up to 18 feet, while Modena experienced even higher accumulations. The winter of 1389 brought its own set of challenges, with record snowfall documented in the Lozère region of southern France. A chronicler from Montpellier recounted how the snowfalls were so immense that numerous farmsteads were destroyed, trapping many inhabitants inside their homes. Some perished due to the collapsing structures, while others succumbed to the cold or starvation after supplies ran low. While such severe winter weather was common in Scandinavian countries, where the Vikings had developed strategies for travel and survival, those living further south often found themselves unprepared and overwhelmed. Snow became both a barrier and a source of entertainment, as communities adapted to the harsh realities of winter. Food. In medieval farming communities, the work was relentless, with each season bringing its own set of chores to ensure survival through the long winters. Preparation was crucial, and gathering firewood could begin as early as spring, continuing through the summer months when it was bundled and stored for later use. The autumn harvest was another vital time, as any food gathered needed preservation techniques to last the harsh winter ahead. Methods such as pickling, smoking, drying, and brining were commonly employed to extend the shelf life of meats and produce, ensuring that they remained edible during the cold months. Grains, cereals, and pulses were often dried and stored in ceramic or clay pots, ready to be incorporated into hearty stews and soups when needed. Fresh fruits and berries became scarce during winter, requiring careful preservation methods like air drying or pickling in the summer months. Livestock played a crucial role as well, with goats, cows, and chickens providing a steady supply of fresh milk and eggs. Dairy products like butter, cheese, and yogurt formed an essential part of the medieval diet, contributing much-needed nutrition during the bleakest months. In Scandinavia, a distinctive sour milk cheese known as skyr became a dietary staple, made from curdled milk and providing a rich source of sustenance. The whey byproduct was often used for pickling, highlighting the ingenuity of medieval cooking methods. Salted, smoked, and dried meats, such as lamb, beef, ham, and fish, could last for extended periods, essential for survival when fresh food was inaccessible. Most communities situated themselves near reliable fresh water sources, such as wells or rivers, making it relatively easy to gather drinking water. Even in times of extreme weather, snow could be melted for use, showcasing the resilience and adaptability of medieval life in the face of nature's challenges. The Great Famine. Unfortunately, nature did not always cooperate, and famines struck Europe approximately every 2 decades, often leading to devastating consequences. The most catastrophic of these was the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317. This tragic event was triggered by relentless heavy rains in the spring of 1315, which resulted in widespread crop failures across the continent. The incessant downpours seemed never-ending, leading to a staggering drop in agricultural yield by as much as 1/3. Livestock suffered as well, succumbing to starvation and disease as food supplies dwindled. The consequences of the Great Famine were dire, with rampant crime and desperation leading to reports of infanticide and even cannibalism. This period of suffering affected an estimated 30 million people, with mortality rates soaring as individuals struggled to find food. Historians estimate that between 1 and 3 million lives were lost due to starvation, illness, and the harsh conditions that accompanied this tragedy. While the Black Death later claimed even more lives in the mid-14th century, the Great Famine stands out as the worst natural disaster of the late Middle Ages, leaving a deep imprint on the psyche of European society. The lessons learned from this famine echoed through the ages, influencing agricultural practices and policies. Communities became more vigilant about their food supplies, and the necessity of maintaining adequate reserves became paramount. This understanding of the fragility of food systems would shape how future generations approached agriculture and survival in the face of potential calamities. Entertainment. Once the chores and necessary preparations for winter were complete, medieval people sought ways to fend off the boredom and despair that often accompanied long, cold months indoors. With agricultural work at a standstill during winter, many turned to various forms of entertainment to keep their spirits high. Snow provided opportunities for outdoor fun, with activities such as sledding and ice skating becoming popular. Communities would gather on frozen lakes and rivers, where makeshift skates crafted from horse shin bones or polished wood allowed them to glide across the ice. Over time, these skates evolved, eventually being made from iron for better durability and performance. In Viking communities, snowball fights served not only as entertainment, but also as a way to instill combat skills in children, preparing them for future battles. Illustrations from the time, such as those found in the Book of Hours from 1460, depict lively snowball fights among both children and adults, illustrating how such activities fostered community bonding and joy amidst the harshness of winter. Indoors, the long evenings were filled with storytelling, wool spinning, and games. Board games like chess and backgammon were popular pastimes, allowing for both strategic thinking and social interaction. Dice games also held appeal, providing a chance for friendly competition. In Viking culture, board games often included strategic elements that mimicked real-life scenarios, serving as both entertainment and a training ground for future warriors. One of the most widely read texts in the High Middle Ages, the Secretum Secretorum, even suggested dietary adjustments to combat the winter's toll on health. It advised consuming hot meats, such as pigeon, game, and mutton, along with fine red wines to warm the body and stave off the effects of the harsh season. Despite the gloomy weather and dire conditions, medieval people found ways to celebrate life and maintain their sense of community, showcasing their resilience in the face of adversity. The Great Famine. Inevitably, the struggle for survival during the medieval winter was compounded by the looming specter of famine. Throughout history, crop failures were not uncommon, with the harsh climate playing a significant role in food shortages. Famines in Europe occurred approximately every 2 decades, often devastating entire communities. The most notorious of these was the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317, a catastrophic event triggered by relentless heavy rains that began in the spring of 1315. These incessant downpours led to widespread crop failures, causing yields to plummet by as much as a third. Livestock suffered gravely as well, succumbing to starvation and disease, leaving rural families in dire straits. The famine unleashed a wave of desperation and despair. As food became scarce, criminal behavior surged, with acts of infanticide and cannibalism tragically reported in various communities. Estimates suggest that the Great Famine affected around 30 million people, resulting in the deaths of approximately 1.5 to 3 million individuals. The severity of this famine set a grim precedent for subsequent crises, as Europe struggled to recover fully until around 1322. While the Great Famine was undoubtedly a dark chapter in the history of the late Middle Ages, it also served as a stark reminder of the fragility of human existence in the face of nature's whims. Though the Black Death of the mid-14th century would later prove to be more devastating in terms of mortality, the Great Famine remains etched in history as the worst natural disaster of its time, shaping the social and economic landscape of medieval Europe for generations to come. Surviving the harsh winters of the Middle Ages was a formidable challenge, particularly for those residing in southern Europe, where the sudden drop in temperature could be a rude awakening. In contrast, inhabitants of northern regions were often better equipped to endure the rigors of ice and snow, having developed techniques and customs that prepared them for such conditions. They relied on their sturdy pelts and efficient methods of travel, such as skis, to navigate the winter landscape. Yet, the dangers of starvation loomed large for all, as dwindling food stores raised the specter of hunger. The cold not only strained food supplies, but also facilitated the spread of disease, as people were forced into close quarters within poorly insulated homes. The threat of illness was ever present, and the interplay of harsh weather and limited resources often left communities vulnerable. For the medieval populace, accumulating stockpiles of provisions became vital to survival, providing some measure of warmth and nourishment. However, amid the frost and darkness of winter, the specter of death was never far behind. Life during these times was a testament to human resilience, showcasing both the ingenuity and determination needed to endure and thrive in an unforgiving world. Thank you for watching this episode of Tavern Tales. We hope you found it enlightening and perhaps even a bit cozy, despite the chilling stories of the Middle Ages. As winter sets in, remember the resourcefulness and tenacity of those who came before us in their quest for warmth and survival. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please consider subscribing to our channel for more captivating tales from history. Don't forget to leave a like, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. What winter survival tips do you think would have helped medieval folk the most? We'll see you next week for another intriguing episode. Until next time.